Today we're going to talk about Tailwind CSS, and I guess first question you're going to ask, what is Tailwind CSS? And this is a really good question, which we can answer with the official Tailwind site. According to it, Tailwind is CSS framework made up with utility classes, which allow us to rapidly build modern websites without even leaving our HTML. It sounds awesome, but what exactly does it mean? And to understand it, let me remind you slightly how normally we style our projects. So, normally we have an HTML file with structures by tags, where we put all the elements, and in the same structure we can add classes. We don't have lots of them normally, maybe one, maybe two, it can be any quantity, but normally not that many. And this is how the structure looks like. And also we have a CSS file, it's needed, which has inside of it the same classes, and each class has some style properties like margins, paddings, font size, colors, and so on and so on. This is like normal system for style your project. And when we talk about Tailwind, we have HTML file with classes, but we don't have CSS file. And in our HTML, we have classes with any of each actually work with only one style property. So kind of same, but different. And to understand this system, we need to go back to the term we already heard in the beginning of this presentation, which is utility classes. And utility classes are small single-purpose CSS classes that apply specific styles to elements. This is a very common term for CSS frameworks, but if you never worked with them, it can sound a little bit confusing. So let me show you some examples from Tailwind. The first example, class dark text gray 300, which means that when our system works in dark mode, like dark theme, it can be changed systematically or by the choice of the user. So in this case, our element will be automatically changed on this type of this style of the text. Second example, class px6. It's pretty simple, and it actually give our element two paddings in a row, from the left side and in the right side. And one more example, class SM rounded LG. This is how does it look. And in this case, SM in the beginning of the class is a prefix, which means that this style applies to a specific, small sizes of screens. There are actually lots of these classes, and obviously you don't need to remember all of them. You always can look to the documentation, and I add the link of this on this slide. Or also you can experiment with different classes in special Tailwind playground, which also available on Tailwind official site. So this concept. So this framework sounds great, but how we can start to use it in our project? It's actually pretty simple. We need to install it, and that's kind of all. So there is 3 ways to install Tailwind to your project. First of them is install Tailwind by CLI tool. It's pretty simple. I'm sure you're familiar with the process of installing different packages to your projects. So it's kind of same. You need to put directive to terminal, install the package. You need the config file, then configure this file. Then you need to put Tailwind directives to your CSS file, and the last step in this case will be to start the Tailwind CLI build process, and that's kind of all. Next option is install Tailwind as post CSS plugin. You can make it by itself or inside most of popular environments such as React, Angular, Vue, and so on. The process is kind of same. There is one more step, which is adding Tailwind to post CSS configuration in post CSS config file. And the last way to install it, it's not actually installation. This way is the easiest, I think, because you don't need to install any packages or something. You can just add a CDN script to your head tag in HTML file and just start using Tailwind. The processes are pretty simple, as we can see, but if you need more tips or step-by-step guide how to install Tailwind, I put the link in the presentation on this slide, so you can follow it and just install the framework. So after we learn how to install Tailwind, and basically we know how does it work. I mean, we talked about utility classes. I think it's time to understand why should we choose Tailwind, especially when we have so many other CSS frameworks as very famous Bootstrap, or for example less famous but also common Foundation. So the difference between Tailwind and Bootstrap, for example, is that Tailwind is an instrument which allows us to usually create our own components. So Bootstrap, for example, also allows us to build our own components, like custom ones, but usually people use Bootstrap for its built-in components, like component button or component pop-up, something like this. But Tailwind give us much more flexible instruments to build our own components, and this is the main thing about it. So why should we choose Tailwind, right? First of all, Tailwind is highly customizable. It means that Tailwind has its own pre-set up config file, but we can customize it, and there is lots of settings, so it will be very personalized. Second reason that Tailwind carries common used utility pattern. It means that we don't need each time to hard coding all the utility classes. We can remember these popular patterns for our development and call them by special function. The third reason is Purge CSS optimization. Purge CSS is one more special tool to optimize our CSS file, our project, it actually remove not used classes, and together Tailwind with the Purge CSS allow us to make project cleaner, and to make it lighter, and all of this, because it's much more optimized. The third reason is responsiveness made easy. We already saw an example of a utility class with the prefix sm. So Tailwind is actually a framework which is oriented first on mobile first development. So there are these special prefixes, and they allow us really easily to build very beautifully adapted project. And the last but not least, it's actually a effortless community interaction. Tailwind has a very active and friendly community, and this is a really nice environment for people who are new to the framework. Can find all the answers in there, and it's actually a big positive side of the framework. And when we know what is Tailwind, how does it work, why is it so good, I have one more last tip for you. And before you start your first project with Tailwind, it is actually about a special extension for Tailwind, which is work with VS Code. It's very handy to use it, and you obviously will be more satisfied with your experience with Tailwind if you will use it. It's official. It calls Tailwind CSS IntelliSense, and I put link on this last slide. So this extension highlight the code. It's auto complete the classes and doing some other very nice and useful stuff. So that's kind of all I wanted to tell you about Tailwind today. I hope that this little presentation helped you to understand how does framework work. And yeah, I just wish you nice coding, and I hope that your projects will become much more better with this amazing tool. Bye.